So before we start, this is just an example of a parse tree that we get with constituency parsing. For example, you consider this sentence, Paul gave Peter 2 pears, right? So in this sentence, so let us see that this is a sentence and this is specified by, it can be derived from S. Yesterday we talked about what we mean by derivation, right? Just a minute, my pen is not visible. Okay, now it has appeared. So yeah. So this is S. S is the start symbol. So anything that we can derive from S is a sentence. On the other hand, if we take a sequence of words and we can show a parse tree that it is derived from S, then we can say that this sequence of strings belongs to S. Okay. So we have S here, and suppose we did have a production rule, S goes to NP, VP, Z. So using this production rule, we have from S these three children. Okay. And then we have, if we look at this edge, this can be derived from a rule which is NP goes to N. And then from N to Paul, we must have a lexicon production rule from the lexicon which says N goes to Paul. Similarly, we have from VP, we have V, NP, NP. So in order to get this, we must have a production rule, VP goes to V, NP, NP. And then we have this lexicon rule, V goes to gave. Then NP goes to N. We already have this rule, NP goes to N. And then N goes to Peter. Then must have NP goes to CN. And then C goes to 2. And N goes to pairs. And Z goes to dot, right? So in order to get this tree, these production rules must exist. On the other hand, if someone creates this tree from this sentence and gives it to you, from this you can infer what production rules must have been there in order to get this tree. Is this clear? Now for the same sentence, this is an example of a dependency tree. So this is the root of the sentence. So this is the verb. So the verb is the root of the sentence. So gave is the verb. So for gave is the head and we have several dependents. Paul is the subject of gave. We can say Paul is a nominal subject for the verb gave. Peter is the object. Peter is the object. There are two objects here. Paul gave to whom and what. So Peter is the indirect object and Pierce is the direct object, right? And then 2 quantifies pairs. So there is a count or numeric relationship between 2 and pairs. So this is an example of a dependency parse tree. Now, if we look at these two parse trees, can you tell what are some of the major differences between these two parse trees? Between a constituency parse tree and a dependency parse tree, can you give your observations about some differences? Sujit Kumar, are you there? Joy Mustafi, can you tell some differences between these two parse trees, constituency parse tree and dependency parse tree? So I'm waiting for your response. So I think all of you are sleeping. So who will like to answer? Please carry on.
Ma'am, in a dependency parse tree, all the nodes are words of the sentence, whereas in the other, only the leaf nodes were words of the sentence. Others are like tags for
Right.
the.
Excellent. Excellent. So this is one major difference that we can see in the constituency parse tree. The words are the leaves of the tree, and the internal nodes are the constituents. Whereas in the dependency parse tree, the nodes are also the roots, right? And the edges connect one word with another word. The edges are binary relations. Whereas here, so the corresponding to a node and internal node is a constituent, and it can have 1, 2, 3, 4, any number of children, and the children can be either terminals or words, but the leaves are all words and the internal nodes are all constituents. Is that okay? Does everyone see that? Now, of course, yeah. So let us look at an example. Yesterday you were saying that you wanted to look at some example. So we will take a subset, a simple subset of English, a small subset, and look at some formal grammar according to the context-free grammar constituency rules of English. And an exercise for you to do the same thing, similar exercise with Hindi or any other language that you speak. Okay, so this is the, this is a very first grammar, very simple grammar, which only can represent a subset of English sentences. So first of all, we have this derivation rule starting from S. S is my start symbol. So S goes to NP-VP. That is, sentence goes to noun phrase, verb phrase. Now NP, we have three different derivations. NP goes to pronoun, NP goes to proper noun, NP goes to determiner, nominal. Then we have two rules for nominal. Nominal goes to noun and nominal goes to nominal noun. Then we have these four rules for VP. VP goes to verb, VP goes to verb NP, VP goes to verb NP PP, VP goes to verb PP, and PP goes to preposition NP. So these are some simple set of rules. And on this right hand side, there's an example of each rule. And I leave you to read this. And we also have these production rules corresponding to lexicon. So we have taken a small subset of the words. So nouns, we have flights, breeze, trip, morning, verb, is, prefer, like, need, want, fly. Adjective, cheapest, non-stop, first, latest, other, direct, pronouns, some proper nouns, determiner, the, and this, these, that, prepositions from, to, on, near, conjunction, and or but. This is not an exhaustive, this is just a some small subset of these words and a small subset of the roots. So please go through this, and if you have any comments, please let me know. So, what is S? S stands for? What can you get from S?
The sentence.
S, you can get sentence. Not all sentences. Some. What type of sentence? What type of sentence can you get from S according to these grammar rules?
Sentences in context-free language.
Yeah, that is fine. But do you have an English sentence? If you extend the lexicon, can you give an example of an English sentence that cannot be derived from this rule? Anybody? Tell me some English sentence that you cannot get from these rules. Maybe all of you can write a sentence in the in the chat. Each of you write a sentence that you cannot derive from these rules. I want all of you to write. So we have 52 attendees. So can you all write a sentence? So Dhrubojyoti says flying Las Vegas. So flying Las Vegas, is it a sentence? So Debojyoti Dashgupta, flying Las Vegas is not a sentence. Give a sentence, proper English sentence, which cannot be parsed by these rules. So Pragya Paramita, so what do you like? Yes, this is an example of a sentence which you cannot get from here. He opened his eyes. He opened his eyes. You cannot get because you have this pronoun. So there are. They want a flight. They want a flight you can get from these rules if you add to the lexicon. Do you have a morning flight? Are you flying to Las Vegas? So these types of question sentences you cannot get. I flew to Las Vegas. I think that you can get if you augment the the lexicon you can get. So what I can see is that some of you have given examples of question sentences like when is it possible, what will you have done, etc., which you cannot get. Okay, now I've got some more examples. Get out, close the door. So close the door is another sentence which you cannot get, right? So this NP-VP are typically, again, a subset of declarative sentences. But we have imperative sentences like close the door, right? Which does not have this noun phrase, which you cannot get from this grammar. Also, do you prefer morning trip? When is it possible? What time is it? So these types of questions you also do not get. Jyoti Kumari, you say want to fly Alaska. It's not a complete sentence, I mean, it's a colloquial sentence, but it is not according to the English grammar. Okay. So what I can see is that first of all, you can get only simple sentences with a single clause. We cannot get complex sentences. For example, I want a flight that goes to, let us say, Mumbai. So that type of sentence we cannot get. We cannot get imperative sentences, that is, close the door. We cannot get question sentences, right? We cannot get compound sentences and so on. Right, but let's stick with this grammar. Now, so S rules, as we have seen, are intended. They can account for entire sentences. Of course, right now we have only one type of sentence, but we can add to this. But we can also take S on the right-hand side of a grammar. So S is something which is a complete sentence. So we can have S to stand for clause. So what is clause? Clause is a part of a sentence which has its own verb and arguments. Okay. I want that you visit your mother. Right? I want that you visit your mother. You visit your mother is a clause. It's a dependent clause. I want that you visit your mother is a complex sentence. So there are two clauses. I want. What do I want? I want that you visit your mother. Right? And then you visit your mother is another clause. Now, noun phrase, we have written some types of noun phrase in this grammar. Of course, we can add to these rules. So we have written a noun phrase as a pronoun or a proper noun or a determiner followed by nominal. And then we have this recursive rule. We saw an example of this recursive rule yesterday. So nominal goes to nominal noun. For example, you say golf bat or you say wooden golf bat, right? So you can make this noun, noun, noun any number of times through this recursive. Okay. But still these rules for noun phrase, they do not account for all noun phrases that can occur. Now, I would like you to suggest certain noun phrases which you cannot get from this grammar. Some noun phrase that you cannot get from this grammar. The first flight, right? So yes, so we do not have these numeric things. Cheapest flight, so we don't have adjective. So we can add this to the grammar. We can say adjective, noun, or nominal. So yeah, so there are certain noun phrases that we cannot get, but this is a small subset so that we can talk about it. This is an example of a constituent parse tree of a sequence of words, which is itself a noun phrase. This is an example of a noun phrase. All the morning flights from Denver to Tampa leaving before 10. Right? This itself is a noun phrase. And let us see some rules which were used to derive this noun phrase. NP goes to predeterminer NP. We can also just say determiner. So there are different types of determiners. If you go for final division, so all is a predeterminer, NP is a noun phrase. So all the morning flights from Denver to Tampa leaving before 10. In general, we can say all flights, all books. Then we have this rule, NP goes to determiner noun. Okay. So the is a determiner. We have already seen this rule. Then we have this rule, nominal goes to nominal gerundive verb phrase, right? So gerundive verb phrase, an example is leaving before 10, starting in the morning, going to Alaska. These are examples of gerundive verb phrase. Then nominal, we have nominal preposition phrase, like flights to Tampa. So to Tampa is a preposition phrase. Then for nominal, we have again nominal PP is used again. Then nominal to nominal noun. noun to morning, nominal to flights, then PP to prom deliver. So this, this parse tree is a parse tree for noun phrase, and this includes some other rules concerning noun phrase, nominals, etc. Now, typically in a context-free grammar, when we have a rule, we also specify, for the context of parsing, we also specify which is the root. For example, when we have this rule NP goes to predetermined NP, we will say the root will come from here. Here we say the root will come from here. Here we will say that the root will come from here. So for each rule, we also specify where the root will come from. So I have just circled the positions where the root will come from. Now nominals, if you consider nominals, they contain the head, right, and any pre or post modifier. So pre-modifiers could be quantifiers, cardinal numbers, ordinal numbers, adjectives, and so on. And post modifiers, we have already seen prepositional phrases, but we can also have other types of post modifiers. For example, non-finite clauses like arriving before noon, relative clauses like that served breakfast, etc. And these are some rules for English that can be incorporated into the grammar to handle this. So earlier we can have nominal goes to nominal PP, nominal goes to nominal gerund VP. So gerund VP is an example of a non-finite clause. Then nominal goes to nominal relative clause and so on. So overall, the grammar of any language like English is extremely complex. So we're just showing some rules to give you the idea. Now, if we come to word phrases, in English, the word phrase consists of a verb along with, 0 or 1 or 2 main arguments, right? We have different types of verb. For example, the verb disappear, the verb sleep, the verb cry, they do not take an object. But when you take a word called prefer, like prefer, it takes an object, right? If you use a verb like give, it takes 2 objects. Like I give the book to the girl, or I give you the book. Okay? So these are ditransitive verbs which take an indirect as well as a directive object. I saw the girl, saw takes a single object. Then the verb like disappear does not take any object. So we will have different rules for verb. For intransitive verb, we can have VP goes to verb. For transitive verb, we can have VP goes to verb NP. For verbs like give, which are ditransitive, we will also have a rule VP goes to verb NP NP. And then prepositional phrase can occur after a verb. So we can have VP goes to verb PP, VP goes to verb NPPP, and we can also have VP goes to verb NP NPPP. So I gave you the book in the morning. This is an example of this. Now, so verbs have different, different syntax based on the meaning of the verbs. So we can group verbs according to the types of the rules that they take. I cannot say I disappear the girl. I can say I saw the girl, but I cannot say I disappear. I mean, maybe you can say, yeah, disappear can be used, can have multiple subcategorization. But I cannot say I laugh the girl, or I sleep the girl, or I sleep the telescope, right? Because it is an intransitive verb. So depending on the verb, each verb has, take some types of production rules. All verbs are not similar. So what one can do is that they can have a subcategorization of the verbs and have different verb frames. And for each verb, they can specify which of the subcategorization frames that they can take. So for example, sneeze is an intransitive verb. Find will need an object. Give will take two objects, etc. Because we'll not go into the details, just giving you a peek into this. Now, as I have already told you, a grammar can be looked into two ways. One is that it can generate the sentences in the language. The other is using the grammar, you can check if a given sentence belongs to the language. This is the same grammar that we talked about. Now, as I told you, as I gave you the exercise, the grammar that we looked at does not handle all types of sentences. You know, the simple grammar for S, for example, we have S goes to NP-VP. This is a type of simple declarative sentence, in the sentence with one clause which is declarative. But we have other sentences like close the door, which it does not handle. Can you suggest a rule for imperative sentences like close the door? What rule will you have in order to handle imperative sentences? So Arundhati Nashkar, can you tell me a rule for imperative sentences?
Ma'am, I think it will be the first word can be some verb or verb phrase. Then it can be like close the door. Then it will be some noun or noun phrase.
So what is that?
Or
What is
it can
close
be
the right? So you are saying
determiner also
so you are saying verb
in
ending.
the middle. Yes, ma'am. Verb, determiner, noun like that.
Right. So instead of that, we can write it in terms of constituent. We can just write S goes to V, because we will have another rule VP goes to VN. So what you are saying is correct. But in order to have a smaller number of grammar rules, we will like rules which are short and in terms of constituents. Of course, we could write a rule. I mean, just suppose I have a sentence, I can write all the parts of speech. I can have many rules, and each rule has, you know, it's a flat. The tree has a height of 1. Possible, but then the number of rules will become very large. By using these constituents, we're understanding the internal structure of the language so that we can reuse the similar constituents into different positions. That is why we will like to have a rule like S goes to VP instead of what you suggested.
Okay.
Now, there are several question sentences, as some of you have said. You know, there are different types of sentences. For example, let us say yes, no questions. Right? An example of a yes, no question is, do you want to eat? Does the flight go to Alaska? These are examples of yes, no sentences. So can you suggest a grammar rule to account for such yes, no sentences? So do you go to school? Can you read? Right. So Gautam has suggested OX MPBP. Very good. So OX stands for auxiliary, like do, does, can, etc. Then we have WH questions. Right? What is WH? Can you guess? So what typically, what are the words associated with a question? Yes, what, where. So as Dhruv has said, what, where, when, why, right? These are, many questions start with these words. Now, WH questions, we can again categorize into two types. One where the WH question, the WH word is the subject. Like, what do you like to have for dinner? Right? So that what is the subject. Or when do you live? So when itself is a subject. Or WH non-subject, like what time do you want to live? Which boy came to class, right? So WH itself is not the subject, but it qualifies the subject. So accordingly, we can have different rules for that. Okay. So can you give an example of WH subject question? Who did this? Very good. So can you write a grammar rule for this? S goes to, so a WH ox, then or instead of WH ox, we say WHNP. Right? So for example, when did the plane leave? So WHNP, then we can put ox, like when did the pen leave? And then we can have NPVP, for example, for declarative sentence, or we can just have S. So WHNP, ox, NPVP. For WH non-subject question, what do we have? S goes to WH, then a verb phrase. So here are some examples of sentences. This is S declarative sentence, a plane left, and a simple rule is S goes to NPVP. Imperative sentence, such as close the door, leave, S goes to BP. Yes, no question, S goes to ox, NPVP. WH question, this is of the first type, where we have S goes to WHNP, then this is ox, then NPVP, right? And there are other types that you can work on. Is it okay? So, you can add to it. These are just some examples. And we have already talked about derivation in the last class. So we have seen that a derivation is a sequence of rules applied to a string. You start with a string and you can apply a sequence of rules and you get another string. So we can say the first string derives the last string. So a derivation is a sentence that covers all the elements in the string and covers only the elements in the string. So this is a parse tree which shows a derivation from S to the string I prefer morning light. So now now that we have talked a little bit about the grammar of a subset of English, let us come to what is parsing. So this is what is very important for us. So parsing is the process of taking a string and a grammar and returning parse trees for that string. Okay. So if the string belongs to the grammar, we have to find the parse tree which shows the derivation of the string from that grammar. Now, there are two ways of doing parsing. One is by the standard parsing algorithms. For example, you are given a context-free grammar and with all the production rules, given a sentence, there are several algorithms, both bottom-up. There are algorithms which are bottom-up, algorithms which are top-down. For example, recursive descent parser or bottom-up parsers like CKY parser, LL1, LLR, etc. So there are different parsing algorithms so that given the grammar and the string, you can find the parse tree. The other approach to parsing is to use machine learning. For this approach, what we use is a tree bank. What is a tree bank? A tree bank is a set of sentences, and for each sentence, we are giving you the parse tree. Right? Given the parse trees of a sentence, you learn how to parse a new sentence. Okay. So instead of writing down all the rules of English, because it may not be possible for you to exhaustively write, or it will take an enormous amount of time, an enormous number of man years. So what you can do is that instead you spend your effort on taking sentences from a large corpus as they occur, and for the sentence you try to see how you can derive it from this. And in the process, while you do the tree, you write down the rules. And using this tree bank, you can learn a parse. And there have been many efforts in building tree banks for different languages, different natural languages. For example, one of the very initial and large effort was building the Penn tree bank, where they took sentences from some standard corpus and developed a tree bank for that. And there are tree banks for many other languages. Now, this is an example of a sentence which occurs in the Penn tree bank. So this is a tree written in a bracketed notation. So this sentence here is, I would have to wait until we have collected all those assets. Right? And if you look at this bracketed notation, the first word is the root, and the subsequent arguments are the children for that node. And if you follow this, you can get a tree. I will leave it as an exercise to pictorially draw the tree from this bracketed notation. And if you are having some difficulty, we will take it up in the next class. So one of you can present the tree that you have used. These are some more examples. And this is one tree for which we have this bracketed notation. Okay? So I will give the slides with you, or this is from your textbook, and you can have a look at it. Now, tree bank. So people did make an effort for quite some time to write down the rules, the grammatical rules of a language, but it is an enormous effort. And it was found that it is easier to develop a tree bank. Because when you have the sentences in the tree bank, they implicitly constitute a grammar. Like, the first sentence that I took was first tree that we took. From that tree, I was trying to find out what are the grammar rules that have given rise to that. Very easy to find. You take any internal node and you look at the children, and corresponding to that, you have a rule. So if that rule is not already in your grammar, you add that rule to the grammar. Now, so first we will look at, with respect to context-free grammar, we will not look at machine learning, but we will look at, given a grammar, how do we find the parse tree of a sentence? And this is called syntactic analysis. Now, there are different algorithms for parsing. So there's a class of algorithms called top-down, where you start from S, and suppose for S you have 5 different production rules. You take one at a time and see, using that production rule, can you get the sentence? Now, if you take, suppose there's S goes to NPVP, S goes to VP, S goes to WH, NPVP. So you have these 3 production rules. You take the first one, and suppose S goes to NPVP. So it has 2 constituents, NP and VP. For NP, suppose you have 5 rules. You take all of them one at a time. VP, you have 3. You take all at a time. And like this, you try to find out if you can derive the sentence. These are top-down parsers, and there are some top-down parsers like RT, recursive descent parsing. For those of you who are in computer science and have done a course on compilers, you are familiar with this. There are also various bottom-up parsers, and we will look at one of them. But before that, we just want to summarize that context-free grammar gives us a good formalism of expressing the rules of English. Of course, I did not go into details. There are certain augmentations that you have to make to context-free grammars, or you have to add to the complexity of the grammar. For example, when we looked at verb rules, we told that all verbs do not have similar rules. So you can categorize, instead of saying verb, you can say verb of type 1, verb of type 2, verb of type 3. So you can categorize verbs into different groups, and for each group you can tell what rules they belong to. There are other issues. For example, in natural language, if you take English or any natural language, there are different types of agreements. For example, in English, the subject and the verb have to agree on the number. For example, the boy eats, the boys eat. So the number of the noun phrase must agree with the number of the verb phrase. So this type of agreement, in order to do that, either you can increase the number of grammar rules by having singular NP, plural NP, or you can keep the grammar elegant by adding some augmentations to the grammar. We'll not go into the details, but just want to mention that context-free grammar, along with certain extensions, are good to capture the syntax of natural language. As I said, there are problems. They can be dealt with in CFG, but if you want to deal with them elegantly, you can add to the CFG and rules. And there are certain formalisms which have been used: lexical functional grammar, head-driven phrase structure grammar, construction grammar, tree adjoint grammar. We'll not want to look at it. I'm just telling you for your information. Now, let us look at some bottom-up parsing. So let's take a simple sentence, book that flight. And in bottom-up, what we do, we'll take the word book, and we will find the rules which have booked at the right-hand side. Right? And suppose there are multiple such rules. Suppose we have verb goes to book. We may also have noun goes to book. Okay. So we can search, we can take, we can see with which we can get S. So this shows only one of the declensions, but we have to try the others. For example, suppose that is a determiner, flight is a noun. And then we try to find a rule which has this or a string on the right-hand side, and how we get it. So we have a rule, nominal goes to noun. We can apply that. Now we can have a rule which combines det and nominal. Then we have a rule which can combine verb and NP, and we have etc. So this is one example of a bottom-up construction of a tree. However, there is ambiguity. As I said, that you can get book from either verb or noun, and you have a lot of rules that you could apply. So you have to decide what you wish to apply, and you also want to do it in a manner where you need not redo your efforts. So you want to make use of shared subproblems while you want to have the flexibility of searching for different types, different ways of getting the string, but you also want to make use of shared subproblems. And we use an algorithmic framework called dynamic programming, which we have seen while discussing with HML, in order to deal with shared subproblems efficiently. There are also ambiguities in a sentence. We have discussed ambiguity in the beginning of the class, and the same sentence can have multiple parse trees. So, this is a sentence I think I also told in the class. I shot an elephant in my pajamas. These are two of the derivations. So, in my pajamas can be qualifying the elephant, or it can also qualify I. In my pajamas can refer to I, or it can refer to an elephant. And corresponding to this, we have these different parse trees. So we would like to also have, for a given sentence, all the different parse trees that you can get. So dynamic programming is an algorithmic framework which we can use also for parsing. So we can have a table. So, when we have a parse tree, what we have, we have a sequence of words. Suppose we have W1, W2, W3, Wn. So this is my sentence. And what we want to know is that, is there a derivation where from S we can get this entire sentence through some intermediate steps? Now, in order to do this, we can look at potentially any of the substring of this sentence and see what all constituents, from which constituent we can get it. For example, I can be a pronoun or a noun phrase. Shot can be a verb phrase. Now, I shot can be a sentence because it comprises of a noun phrase and a verb phrase. A single verb is also a verb phrase. So, an elephant is a noun phrase. An elephant in my pajamas is also a noun phrase. Shot an elephant in my pajamas is a verb phrase, etc. So we want to know for each substring what are the constituents from which it can be derived. So if the sentence has n words, how many subsequences are there? If a sentence has n words, how many sequences are there? Ognik Shaha, can you tell me how many sequences are there? Like I is a sequence, I shot is a sequence, shot an is a sequence, shot an elephant is a sequence, an elephant in is a sequence.
For n words, there should be n into n-1 sequence.
Right, very good. So in the first, suppose you take a sequence beginning with word 1, how many sequences are there? With 1 in beginning at 1?
One sequence for first word.
No, not one sequence. Beginning with the first word. So a sequence can be written as ij.
Yes, ma'am. There will be n into n-1 total sequence.
So yeah, by 2. I'm just coming to it. I'm just saying that a sequence can be written as I comma j, where I is the starting position, j is the ending position, where j is greater than equal to I. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
So for starting with 1, there are n sequences. There are n-1 sequence, n-2, and starting with n, there is 1 sequence.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you sum, what do you get? Do you get this? So there are, there are possible n square or n minus 1, but we only take the j must be greater than equal to I. So we have divided by 2. So it's approximately n square by 2 sequences are there, right? So we have n minus 1 by 2 sequences. Do you all agree? Okay. Now we can denote these sequences if we take a matrix, n by n matrix, and we can say that ijth position in the matrix corresponds to a sequence which starts at I and ends with j. Okay. So all positions in the matrix are not valid because we do not want I equal to 5, j equal to 2. Do you agree? No, please don't be silent. Say yes or no. So can you tell me, suppose we take a simple matrix having, suppose we have 4 words, right? Can you tell me which are the entries in the matrix which are valid? Can you tell me what are the valid entries?
Ma'am, j greater than I.
J greater than equal to I, because my sequence has a starting point and an ending point. So we will have, what are the diagonal entries correspond to? So what do the diagonal entries correspond to? What type of sequence?
One word sequences.
One word sequence. Very good. And then these entries, they correspond to what? 2 word sequences, then 3 word sequences, then 4 word sequences. So these are the entries. So the upper triangular matrix is what we are concerned with. And we want to find out for these entries in the matrix, what constituents they can be, right? For example, book the morning flight. So book can be noun or verb. The can be determiner. Morning can be noun. Flight can be noun, right? Now we want to see book the, is it any constituent? For example, determiner noun is NP. We can say the morning is NP. Morning flight can be a nominal. Okay. So like this, we want to see book the morning. Is it up? Does it have any? So like this, we can fill up these entries. So we have an algorithm called the CKY algorithm, which takes this matrix and tries to fill up these cells. And I give you an exercise to read this algorithm from your book, from your textbook. Very simple algorithm. You first fill up these diagonal entries. Now, after filling up these diagonal entries, you can fill up these entries, then these entries, or you can fill up, column wise, row wise. After filling up this, then you can fill up this, then this, then this. Basically, when you fill up a cell, you want to have already filled up the ways of arriving at the cell. In order to apply the CKY algorithm, we want a grammar which has a grammar, of course, a context-free grammar has a single non-terminal on the left-hand side and a string on the right-hand side. We want to rewrite the grammar so that there are only up to two symbols on the right-hand side. any grammar rule having 3 symbols, 4 symbols on the right hand side, we can rewrite in terms of these 2 symbols. And once we have this grammar, we can do this algorithm called the CKY. So I ask you to read this algorithm from the book, and we will discuss it in the next class before we proceed to dependency class. Okay, we will stop today. Have a very good weekend.